Welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks, how to get it just right. Thank you so much for joining us for another exciting and impactful conversation. Today, we're going to talk about how do we make sure the things we are creating, the entrepreneurial journey that we are building is protected from a legal trademark perspective so that the assets we are building are protected for us as our own property. And remember, all your assets are part of your balance sheet. They have financial value. And if we don't legally protect them, we're not setting our business just right. And remember, what's Goldilocks reminding us? She's telling us how to show up just right so that we get things done right. We are in balance, right? We're not too excited, not too calm. We're not too hot, not too cold, not too hard, not too soft. How do we show up in that balance with the right elements layered in so that we are setting ourselves up, our organizations up, and our relationships up for success? And to have this very important legal conversation with me today is an amazing lady all the way from the UK, Céleste, the Empress of Trademarks. Céleste, welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here, and I'm so looking forward to this conversation. Thank you.
Fantastic. I have so many questions, but I want to start at talking to you about how did you land on trademark law? Because law is such a broad field. What made you gravitate towards this and land here to do what you do today as the Empress of Trademarks?
So there's a really, really great story to this, actually, because I'm actually from Denmark, by the way. Originally, I live in the UK. So when I was a child, and sort of for a long period of my life, my mother was a ceramic artist. She has made her transition. She's no longer in physical form, as I call it. So as a child, I would often hear her complain about other people copying her work. And as a child and a teenager and young adult, I didn't know what to do. And I didn't start studying the law until I was 35. That's a completely different story for another time, probably. And it was just so frustrating to me to hear her frustration, because I felt impotent. I didn't know what I could do to alleviate the situation for her. And I come from a line of very highly creative and innovative people. So I've always been around intellectual property in one form or another. And so when it came to me deciding what to study, which I didn't do until I was 35, I had been drawn to law. And so I got into university, and when I came to intellectual property, I felt completely in love. And it's really lucky because it's the only subject I did really well in. I don't know if I've shared this with you before. I am a person who experiences life with dyslexia. And you may wonder, how on earth did you manage to go through university? I do not know, because it was not until after I had finished studying the law that I learned that I am somebody experiencing life with dyslexia. And I expressly say it this way to distance myself from it. So that was a really different experience. And in Denmark, we study the law from day one. So it's not like in America where you have a bachelor's degree and then you specialize in something else. In Denmark, it's law from day one, as I say, and I totally fell in love with intellectual property.
Fascinating. And the way you're talking about it, law from day one, is how Europe and Asia is set up, right? The American system is slightly different. Now, as you gravitate towards intellectual property has a variety of elements. Talk to us about what are the elements of intellectual property a creative person needs to be aware of, and how is that different from an entrepreneur's need?
I would say, I would be so bold as to say they're almost the same and not entirely. However, all the different elements of intellectual property. There are so many elements to intellectual property. So there's copyrights, trademarks, patents, utility models, registered design. So, and then there's actually also our personal details, like what in Europe is called the GDPR legislation. That is actually part of intellectual property as well. Then you have all the different types of contracts, like the non-disclosure agreements, and all of these things form a part of our intellectual property. And as a creative, it's really vital, and this is something my mother didn't understand, that you understand that everything that you create has value, because there's nobody else like you in this world. So what you do has value so long as it's something original you create. The minute you start to copy and paste from somebody else, that is often referred to as plagiarism, which is a criminal offense. So please don't do that for your own sake. And I would just say that all of us, me included, have to know and understand. Even before I studied the law, it would have been great to know and understand what intellectual property was, because we can so easily, unknowingly and unwittingly, infringe upon somebody else's rights. And something as simple as sharing a video from YouTube, for instance, if a person wants to share, say I love Queen, all right, the rock band Queen. So I want to share a video with you. I would go to YouTube and find the original channel for Queen and then share the video that I want to share with you. I wouldn't do it any other way, because that is the way to ensure that they get paid for their hard work. And it doesn't matter if it's a big and famous rock band like Queen or somebody up and coming. It's the same. It's about showing respect and saying, look, I know that this is your intellectual property, and I want to make sure that you get recognized for that. So that's just one way of doing it, and saying, okay, this is about intellectual property. When we don't know, we don't know. So it's about sharing our knowledge with people in a way that they can all benefit from it.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So a person is starting a business, we'll call it creative. They've designed a logo. They've designed an explanation in terms of a model of how they're going to deliver their product or service. I see them both as intellectual property because it's their created brand logo and their created value proposition process that walks you through, because they have both of those on the website to attract potential clients and for them to get a brief introduction to how this process might work. No details, but with a diagram and a simple explanation. Are those protected? And if a person wants to protect it, how do they go about it?
So for trademarks, it's really important to know and understand that anything that's generic cannot be protected. One of my favorite examples of a really, really great trademark, and most people will be familiar with this, is Apple. And you might think, what's so special about it? First of all, it's instantly recognizable. It's completely simple and elegant. And it does not represent what the business behind it does. So if you create your logo yourself in Canva, it may not be possible to have it registered as a trademark. I have experienced so many people come to me with a beautiful, beautiful logo, and within seconds, that is my superpower. I can tell them whether it can become a registered trademark or not. And when I say I'm sorry, because this is my integrity, I cannot take your money from you to try and register your trademark when I know that I will not be successful. That's how I have a 100% success rate. So people have then said to me, oh, but it's so beautiful. Yes, it may be beautiful what you've got. However, if it is something that is generic, then I can't register it on your behalf. It's really, really key. You know, not everything can or should be registered as trademarks, because if that were the case, we wouldn't be able to have a normal conversation, which would hamper daily life, basically speaking.
Mm-hmm. So that I appreciate you saying it that way. But business process or a methodology, could that be trademarked, or is that the right terminology? How does a methodology get protected? A lot of people were moving into a gig economy from an employment economy, and a lot of professionals are setting up their own business because they have to bid for projects. And as they're bidding for projects, employers are asking, how are you different from everybody else? Right? There are these learning specialists. There are these project management specialists. There are social media specialists. So people are trying to figure out, how do I explain my value proposition in a model? And my approach is unique. I have created this. This is the path I take. Would something like that be protectable? And what do they need to do to make it protectable?
In order to make it protectable, they have to have a registered trademark. Because the trademark, this is my trademark, right? So what you can do with your trademark is you can stick it onto all the things that you create once you've got it registered as a trademark. If it's not a registered trademark, you can still stick it on there as your logo to get recognition. However, when it's not registered as a trademark, it's much more difficult to defend from the legal perspective, which is my perspective. So you always have to have copyright. Okay, let's try again. Copyright clauses on everything that you write, as long as it's your own written original material. And in America, you can submit it either to the trademark authority or the intellectual property authority, or with Writers Guild East or West. I've heard people say that they should register copyrights with the Writers Guild. It can also be submitted to the Intellectual Property Office, which is probably the best place to do it, by the way.
How about the U.S. Copyright Office?
So when I say Intellectual Property Office, that's to cover intellectual property is like the umbrella, and underneath it you have all these different elements. Okay. So the Copyright Office will belong underneath that, and that's where you would do it in America. And the interesting thing is that in Europe you don't have to register your copyright. In America, because the mentality in America is highly litigious, it is a good idea to register it with the Copyright Office, as you say, because then there is a legal entry, and with that, when you go to court in America, you can then pull that forward to prove your ownership.
You're so right. The United States is very litigious. It is to a point where employers recommend don't associate it with coworkers after hours. Don't invite your team home. Even if you want to do something good for them, don't. If you even go to a restaurant, everything is an opportunity to get sued. And so there's so much discouragement in what they call fraternizing, and everything gets very cold and distant. And then we wonder why people don't have a sense of belonging in the workplace, or why people don't feel that they are part of the team. And therefore, they're not innovating. They're just doing the bare minimum.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
On how organizations can navigate this, because I come from a society where when relationships are personal, people will go extra 100 miles to get things done. I'm from the South Asian tradition. So we lead with our humanity as opposed to lawsuits, right?
Yeah, and I
legal
totally agree with
barriers.
that. Yeah, I totally agree with that, because if you want to create an inclusive, diverse culture with your business, you need to lead, and you need to open up your arms and say, you are welcome here, you know, and you have to have certain things in place, obviously, you know, that is certain contracts and things like that. However, the more we can lead with our hearts rather than our brains, the better the whole world will be. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're seeing that in technicolor display these days, right? Politically, societally, economically.
Yeah.
So what advice would you have for young creatives? There are a lot of young people who are daring to enter the creative space and walking away from the traditional norms of you have to go work for somebody. And I love that. What advice would you have for the younger generation creatives who are stepping into the unknown with all their optimism and a boatload of capabilities?
First of all, I want to applaud them for doing that, because that is such a courageous, wonderful, amazing thing to do, because it takes courage to do this. We may as well admit it, and it takes confidence, and it is, let me just say, it's going to be an epic ride, and there are going to be epic highs and epic lows, because that's part of the whole roller coaster of life. And the important thing is not to give up, first of all, and second of all is to know that there are things to put in place, such as copyright clauses, contracts, like non-disclosure agreements, because if these creatives are designing, innovating something that hasn't been seen in the marketplace before, if they are in need of financial backing, for instance, or a manufacturer to create that thing for them, they need these things in place. So copyright clauses are mandatory, and then the non-disclosure agreements are mandatory. Don't go in all blue-eyed and optimistic and think, oh, I can just handle this, because many people are cynical. If you just share your creation with them completely openly, you will become copied and you will not be rewarded for your hard work. I came across, when I first landed in England 5 years ago, I came across a young woman who had invented a particular horse rug. I'm a horse person myself, and she didn't know what to do with it. She didn't know how to have it manufactured or anything. So she just listened to her friends and family who said, oh, just contact this big old horse rug manufacturer. They can totally help you. Yeah, that's true. However, she didn't have any copyright clauses. She didn't have any non-disclosure agreements. So the fact of the matter is, she shared everything with them, all that she had researched, all that she had amassed about this topic. And then they said, we're terribly sorry, we can't help you. Bye-bye. And then later, they created that precise horse rug. I don't want that to happen to you, because that is so devastating. So be alert, be aware, know that what you create, as long as it's original, it is valuable and protectable.
I'm smiling because the story that comes to my mind is that of the gentleman in New York who invented the female undergarment, and he hadn't patented or copywritten it. And here comes a French gentleman, Mr. Duclair Brazier, and he bought a few, took it back to France, and pulled it apart and reconstructed it, patented it. It's still called by his name, right? And the person who truly invented it, his name was Mr. Titzlinger. And the joke is that that's why you call the female body part by that name in ode to the man who actually invented the garment to support it, right? So I always tell this tongue-in-cheek story. It's a real story. It's funny. People won't forget. And I always remind my entrepreneurial clients, make sure you protect what you need to protect.
Exactly,
So
because
I were to go ahead.
I just wanted to say, because if you don't, you experience what happened to Mr. Titzlinger and to that young woman that I just referred to before, and it's so devastating.
Absolutely. Now, if I were to refer some of my clients who are coming in to get assistance to get their business set up or their business taking it global, GDPR governance to make sure that we're in global compliance, making sure that the international accounting and financial regulations are in place, their global go-to-market strategies in place, all of that we can help. But we definitely can refer them to somebody like you for the legal protection. What would that entail, and how much would that entail in terms of, is it as expensive as a breadbasket, or is it as expensive as buying an airplane? How should people think about this in a reasonable way so that they are ready for it?
So I would say that it's probably closer to maybe not the airplane. However, it depends on how global they are wanting to be. And know this, first of all, there is no global trademark. Even though there are brands out there that are known globally, there is no such thing as a global trademark. It is not possible. You have the European mark where you get 27 countries in one fell swoop, which is really practical. However, there is a massive caveat to that, because if the brand or the trademark falls in one of these 27 nations, it falls in all 27 in one fell swoop. So there are strategic national registrations that are recommendable. And so depending on where they are on their journey, if this is their first day, don't even worry about a trademark yet, because you have to have the financial acumen behind you so that you don't get completely flattened by the fees, because you pay for my services and then you pay for the actual registration separately, because this is to ensure that I don't get accused of money laundering, which we all have to be very careful of. And so when you go to get a trademark registered at the trademark office, it is actually your payment details that I put into the system, not my own. I will be your legal representative on your behalf, and they will contact me on your behalf for anything that needs doing. And that is exactly as it should be. So it depends very much, as I say, on where they're wanting to go. Is it just America they want to trade in? Then it's just an American trademark. If it is America and Canada, then there are two trademarks, two different applications. So it's about sitting down either with me or with somebody else who knows about these things and having that initial conversation. Look, I have got this magnificent thing and I want to protect it. Where do I go next? And then we will have that conversation and we will talk about all the things that you're wanting to do, because it's very rare that people only do one thing with their business. So there are many things to consider in that situation as well. Plus, yeah, as I say, all the countries. So it's a really important conversation to have. Thank you for asking that question.
I'm glad you expanded on it. And the reason I asked the question is I did the Duracell acquisition for Warren Buffett from Procter & Gamble to Berkshire Hathaway. And as I am going through the acquisition stand-up process, I am seeing everybody in the United States, new corporate office to be, having these pink bunnies. In the United States, the pink bunny is Energizer's brand. So I looked at them and said, of all the animals in the animal kingdom, do you want to have the same thing? And they told me, oh, it's a sole subject. I said, what do you mean it's a sole subject? They said the young bunny is the original Duracell brand. It's used all over the world except in the United States. And for some reason, when it was coming up for renewal, somebody forgot to renew it. And obviously there must have been some bad blood because Energizer took it in that window of lapse. So in the United States, we cannot use the bunny. We cannot use the bunny to promote nothing. But in Canada, in Mexico, and everywhere else, we can. And so I present this as a story for our audience to remember. You have to stay on top of this. But the follow-up question is, until I witnessed that, I didn't know patents can lapse. Is it
So it's
like
not just patents, it's also trademarks that can lapse. So a patent is only protected for 20 years and then it goes into public domain unless you keep developing it and keep it alive that way. And with a trademark, in most countries, where except for Canada, there might be other countries. I know for a fact that Canada has a 15-year period. In many other countries, it's 10 years. So it's about remembering to stay on top of these things and say, oops, they will tell you, you are about to need a renewal. Are you interested? Because they don't want to keep trademarks alive if they are no longer relevant. If the business is no longer trading, if you have lost interest in whatever it is you're doing, if nobody has wanted to buy your business, then what's the point in hanging on to a trademark after the 10 or 15-year period? So the other people have to be able to make use of whatever it is. So this is really, really important to know and understand. If you want to keep your trademark, which can actually stay in existence virtually indefinitely, yes, there are certain things to comply with. However, it is your job as the trademark owner or intellectual property owner that you do it, or the legal representation on your behalf does it.
Fantastic. I see we have our live audience here, so let's open it up for questions. But before that, how can our audience get a hold of you, or how can I best refer my clientele to you for this kind of intellectual property protection?
Either via email, my website, or the easiest place is LinkedIn. I am very, very active on LinkedIn. It's my preferred platform. So that's probably the easiest place to find me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Celeste. I am going to open this up to our live audience. If they have any thoughts or questions to surface, let's go.
Hi, Drusilla. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Celeste and Dr. Kashur. I just was listening patiently and consciously because these are the things I'm interested for my business in the future. I am a solopreneur, and when I want to incorporate my business, I just want to be prepared to do that. I think this is a very relevant topic. Protecting your business is so crucial. I commend you for being in this space and giving us opportunity to learn more and to understand what are the steps we can take. So I was late, but I will do the play if there will be any. And yeah, it's a good topic.
Do you have any questions for me?
For now, no. I think it was interesting to see, like, me building a global movement as a consultant. Potentially, I will have like contracts from other countries. So it was interesting to know what is permissible in America, in Europe, and how you have to renew those things. So I think it was informational, and I appreciate that.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, Drusilla. Appreciate you joining and appreciating you sharing your thoughts. So as we bring this to a close, Celeste, if you were to give 3 nuggets of wisdom for people to keep front and center as they embark on their creative or entrepreneurial journey, what would those be?
Know that what you create has value, first of all, as I said before. Make sure that what you put out into the world has your thumbprint on it so that it stays original. Don't copy and paste, because it's plagiarism and it is actually a criminal offense. And cleansing yourself of that is extremely difficult. And the last one is, when you are ready, and don't think that this has to be day one, get the right things in place. The copyright clauses, they're pretty easy. They're like not that difficult. And they are not nearly as expensive as a trademark. Just saying. Contracts, depending on what type of business you have and what type of thing you are entering into, because I have seen and heard of so many situations where somebody had scaled their business to a certain level, and then they, for instance, invite in an investor, and because the investor is a savvy business owner, they see that you may not have a registered trademark. Boom, they perform a hostile takeover, and you are just left completely confused, and your dreams shattered, and you think, oh my goodness, what just happened? And because you don't have any protection, you will have to start all over again from scratch, which is heart-wrenching and sad, and it doesn't have to be that way. And then so when you get to that place and you have the financial acumen, that's when you look for trademarks.
Beautiful. And that is such a cautionary tale. I'm so glad you shared it that way, because once somebody has taken it and actually gone through the legal process of owning it, you can't restart it. It's gone. You have to come up with something brand new. And it may be your idea, but it's not yours anymore.
What's also really important is an idea stays inside your head, so it has to have taken some sort of physical form before we can protect it. This is true of all creative things. So if you are a songwriter, if the tune stays inside your head, we can't protect it for you. You have to have performed it, even for yourself, or recorded it on your phone, or whatever, however you do it. And then if you are a songwriter, do make sure to, in America, submit it to the Copyright Office so you get that extra layer of protection. And I would also suggest to singers and songwriters, get a trademark when you get there. Look at ABBA, the Swedish pop group. They have a trademark. Why have they done that? Because they know what they create is massively valuable.
Absolutely. I grew up with ABBA and Boney M, so I truly concur. That used to be my joyful young days. So thank you so much, Celeste, for sharing your wisdom and giving our audience a lot of food for thought. Legal and financial issues are 2 places people trip up. So this is a invaluable conversation, especially as we are starting a new year. We're entering a new phase. It's new perspective. Get yourself armed, and appreciate you sharing all your wisdom to help our audience guide their journey forward. And to our audience, thank you so much for being a part of the Goldilocks community. We want you to take all the wisdom from our guests every week and build a life that is balanced, that's in harmony, so that you can live a fearless life with total joy and total immersion into what moves you and what excites you. And take a page from Goldilocks. Do it just right so that you can truly own your life, own your power, and be the master of your own domain.